Hello again, everyone. It's time for another episode of 30 Years Ago, this month. It's already March. Jesus, but okay, let's talk about March 1993. For those of you who may be new, this is a series of videos where I talk about all of the things that I deem noteworthy in the world of old head that happened 30 years ago this month, this time March of 1993. And normally I start with the news of that particular month, and really there's only one big story for March of 1993, and that is, of course, that yours truly, old head or young head at the time, turned 15 years old. On March 2nd of 1993, I became 15, which is pretty meaningless, I think. Now that I look back, I'm like, what did 15 even mean? Didn't mean anything. But what it does mean is that 30 years later, right now, I'm about to turn 45 years old. Actually, when this video comes out, I will already be 45. So happy birthday to me. Quickly moving over to the music charts. So when it comes to the top albums in the country, for the US at least, it's a pretty sad month if you ask me, because the beginning of the month, the number one album in America was still the Bodyguard soundtrack, and that thing had been number one for 2 months already. I mean, come on, give somebody else a break. But then somebody else got a break, and it's fucking Eric Clapton Unplugged that ends up being number one for the rest of the fucking month. What a sad time for music it was. But let's not dwell on that. Let's move on to greener pastures and then burn those fucking pastures to the ground, because it's time for
The Hot 10.
Woo, man, they get hot in here for you. Shit, man, that is hot. So yes, the Hot 10, which is the top 10 songs on the Hot 100 of the Billboard charts for this month in 1993. Now, some of you had mentioned that maybe I should be talking about the top songs on like the alternative or hard rock charts, but I haven't been able to find those specific charts for 1 month out of the year. But if I can, I'll do them. But for right now, it's the good old Hot 100 Top 10, which means the shit that was like popular all over the fucking place. And as usual, there will be a bit of musical accompaniment from yours truly. All right, number 10, Bon Jovi with Bed of Roses. At this point, I'm not going to be singing anything because I don't even remember how Bed of Roses went. I mean, there was a Bon Jovi song that came out a couple years before, maybe, that was called Keep the Faith. And at that point, I said goodbye to Bon Jovi, and I remember nothing after that. So congrats, Mr. Jovi. At number 9, we have Jade with Don't Walk Away, Boy. And at number 8, we've got Naughty by Nature with Hip Hop Hooray! Ho! Hey! Ho! At number 7, we have Arrested Development with Mr. Wendell. At number 6, we have Whitney Houston with I'm Every Woman, or something like that. At number 5, holy shit, it's Dr. Dre with Nothing But a G-Thing, Baby. At number 4, we have the good friend of the show, Snow, with Informer. You don't say that to me, Snow, me, I go blame. I lick you, boom, boom, down. At number 3, we have Duran Duran with But I Won't Cry for Yesterday. There's an ordinary world. I sang that one last time. At number 2, still holding down one of the top spots, we have Whitney Houston with I Will Always Love You. No, I'm not going to sing that one because I'm not a murderer. All right, and then number 1, okay, all right. All right, number 1, Peabo Bryson and Regina Belle with A Whole New World from Aladdin. Shame on you, America. Holy shit. Jumping over to the top movies of March 1993. For the first week, a movie we talked about last month, and that is the Michael Douglas movie, Falling Down. Still have not watched that movie again, but I've been assured by some people in the comments that it still holds up today, so one day I'll get around to it again. For the second week of March, a movie that I saw in the theater and I've loved ever since, and that is the classic comedy CB4 with Chris Rock. If you don't know this movie, seek it out because it's a great 90s hip-hop comedy. It's kind of like a spoof of what was going on in the hip-hop world around that time, and it is to me, it's fucking hilarious and has some fucking hilarious songs that we will get to in just a bit. And then for the last 2 weeks of March 1993, the number one movie was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, which actually I have never seen. So you tell me, is this worth celebrating? I don't know. But let's go back to that movie from the second week of March, CB4. And this is a nice transition into the albums that came out in March of 1993, because on March 2nd, my birthday, 1993, the CB4 soundtrack was released. There you go, Mr. Chris Rock. And this is a fucking great soundtrack. So it's already a cool soundtrack because it has the fake songs that the CB4 group do. So it's got Straight Outta Low Cash and Sweat From My Balls, and then it's kind of a weird version of Rapper's Delight. And those are fun and hilarious and worth the price of the soundtrack alone. But then it's got all these other fucking kick-ass hip-hop songs on it. Living in a Zoo by Public Enemy, Black Cop by Boogie Down Productions, Sneaking Up on You by the Fushnikins, The Nocturnal Is in the House by PM Dawn, and then you got some smoother tracks like Baby Be Mine by Blackstreet. This is one of, in my opinion, one of the best soundtracks of the 90s if you're on that side of things. Do you like some of the hip-hops and the R&Bs? Damn good soundtrack for a damn good movie, if you ask me. Also on March 2nd, my birthday, I'm just going to keep, throwing that out there because why not? I only get it one time a year. But also on March 2nd, the third album from Living Colour was released, Stain, the first album that has Doug Wimbish on bass. And it is, God, there is no bad Living Colour album, but this one is, the progression of their first three albums is fucking great. And this would be the last one they would make before they kind of split up for a little bit. I guess they, creatively they weren't seeing eye to eye, but this is a hell of an album to go out on. It has got so many fucking classic badass tracks, and honestly, the star of the show is Doug Wimbish because they already had a badass bass player, and he ended up leaving the group, and they said, all right, well, we're gonna drop this motherfucker in here, and he's all over this album, and it's a fucking great classic 90s album, Stain by Living Colour. On the 9th of March, we have an album that I do not own on vinyl. I don't even know if it's ever been released on vinyl, but if it is, I would like to get it. The sixth album from the band Overkill, I Hear Black. It's one of those albums from the 90s that the cool metal folk will tell you is not very good. And I'm here to tell you they are completely up their own asses. This is a fucking great album. Is it the best Overkill album? I'd say no. But if you said it was, I wouldn't say you were wrong. They do go a little bit more on the groove side of things. A lot more on the groove side of things. But I don't know. These albums where bands do something different, I feel like a broken record, folks, every time I talk about this. When bands do something a little bit different and it actually sounds cool, like in this particular case, I absolutely love it. So yeah, I Hear Black by Overkill. Skipping forward to the 23rd of March, 1993, the one and only album from Disincarnate, the James Murphy, is it a side project? I guess he's all over the place. Everything is a side project for James Murphy. But classic death metal album in my opinion. Look, there's the group right there that he put together for one album. And if you like that classic early 90s death metal, in some ways it is superior to other stuff at the time. In other ways, it's kind of samey, vocal-wise, especially, but it is one of my favorite death metal albums, and I never get tired of it. The guitar work on it is phenomenal, and so, yeah, happy to talk about Disincarnate, Dreams of the Carrion Kind. All right, to wrap things up, let's move forward to the 30th of March, 1993. Last but absolutely not least, the debut album from Onyx, Back the Fuck Up, with their best known song, Slam, and a bunch of other fucking bangers. This album fucking rules, and it's another one of those 90s hip-hop classics. I'm just like, that sound around that time, all these different groups doing these sort of different flavors, but they were all fucking great. And Onyx is one of those groups that I listen to this today, and it makes me feel hoarse. It makes my throat hurt a little bit because it's just like rapping, but there's basically just yelling for like 50 minutes in a row. And I'm like, how do you fucking do it? I guess, you could say the same thing about metal vocalists. I don't have that kind of stamina either. Anyway, this album was produced by Jam Master Jay from Run DMC, and it sounds great. It's a really fun 90s hip hop album, and it came out on the 30th of March, 1993, wrapping up this month's episode of 30 years ago this month. That was a pretty good month. Even if I hadn't been born during this month, I feel like March would still be a pretty good month in 1993. Now, how is it in 2023? Not so bad so far, I guess. But as usual, if there are any albums or other releases that I chose to not talk about or maybe even forgot, I'm not perfect, people. Put it down in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching this month's episode, and I will see you all again next month.